Office of the Chief Justice of Nigeria has responded to the statement made by the Attorney General of the Federation on the program yesterday on the pace of criminal cases. He says, don't blame us. And the heat is getting more and more intense as internal house trading within the parties over party tickets for 2023 grows. We'll take a closer look at the interplays. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. Well, I'll tell you that it is now 8 days since the National Assembly re-amended, passed, and again transmitted the electoral bill to the President Muhammadu Buhari, for his assent. This comes after he has first rejected it, but he told Channels Television exclusively that he will sign the bill should the National Assembly fix all the gray areas he pointed out to them. And so the nation now awaits eagerly the President's assent and hoping that he will keep to his promise of assenting to the bill. There seems to be some reaction to what happened right here on the program yesterday. Some of the statements made by the Attorney General of the Federation and the Honorable Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami. The Office of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Honorable Justice Tanko Mohammed, has today released a statement in response to what the AGF and the Minister said yesterday on this program on the speed of criminal cases in the country. The statement, which was signed by Okorocha Yusuf Isa, the Senior Special Assistant on Media to the Honorable CJN, it reads in part, and I quote, "The judiciary, by its constitutional position, does not have criminal investigation unit or fraud detective squad to detect and investigate criminal involvement of any person. Neither does it have a garrison command to fight its cause or enforce its orders and decisions. More often than not, the federal government's prosecution sector files more charges than it can prove or provide witnesses to prove, ostensibly at times for the prosecution to even fail." End of quote. Now, let's tell you that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has held its final stakeholders meeting ahead of the Saturday FCT elections it headed today. It says no voting will take place in 593 polling units in the Federal Capital Territory area council elections on Saturday. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, told journalists at a meeting with players in the forthcoming elections in Abuja that the affected polling units have no registered voters. The empty polling units, according to him, are part of the 2,260 new polling units established by INEC. Take a listen to the INEC chairman.
There are 593 polling units in the FCT without registered voters. 1,328 polling units with between 1 and 50 voters, and 546 polling units with over 1,000 registered voters. We have already informed political parties at the national level, civil society organizations, the media, and security agencies at the national level about this development. The Commission has decided that no election will take place at the polling units without registered voters. There will be no miracle polling units in the FCT. If there are no voters, there will be no election, and therefore there will be no results from those locations. No materials have been produced for these units, and no personnel will be deployed to them.
You heard the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. You might be wondering why the INEC, which is the Independent National Electoral Commission, is conducting a council election. That is because the Constitution empowers INEC to do so. The states, the 36 states of the Federation, the council elections are being conducted by the State Electoral Commission, the SECs, for the different states. So it's only the FCT that is under the purview of INEC. So let's tell you that some sort of drama today ensued in the Senate as a federal lawmaker of the PDP from Rivers State, Senator Sekibo, asked the Senate to declare the seats of the former Senate Deputy Minority Leader who defected to the APC from the PDP vacant. His motion was swiftly responded to by the Senate President. Take a listen to Senator Sekibo and the response of the Senate President.
Mr. President, the law is clear. A member elected on the platform of a political party retains his seat until the end of that tenure, except there is a division in that political party or there is a merger. And that is what the provision says. And it went further to say such evidences must be brought to the House. That means that you must be previously informed and you will let us know that the member is moving because of this. But our former member said he was leaving to go and breathe fine air, good air. He didn't say the party was divided. He didn't say there was a merger of another political party. More so, subsection 2 of section 68 has not been complied with. I think that he has his own mind, he can go, but I think that we must be critical on these issues to confirm that what we are doing is the right thing. I think my friend Okorocha should come back, which has not done.
Okay. You also mentioned where there is division, somebody could leave. And because the former deputy minority leader represents Taraba South Senatorial District and not you, he knows what is happening there more than you do.
So you heard it. What happened to the underfloor a few days ago? Senator Butcher was here and he gave an explanation of what's happening in his home state of Taraba and the reasons why he left the PDP. Now, let's check out some other stories that you need to know on your political roundup.
President Muhammad Buhari has conferred the 2020-2021 Nigerian National Order of Merit Awards on 3 Nigerians who have been exceptional in the field of science and technology. Honoring the recipients, the president states that Nigeria would continue to recognize and celebrate scholarly achievements as Nigeria's collective future rests on active participation in science and technology. The recipients derived from a selection of 1,200 nominations in the areas of medicine, science, engineering and technology, and the humanities, including education and culture, received a cash reward of 10 million naira each.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you can see,
no voting will take place in 593 polling units when the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, conducts the Federal Capital Territory Area Council elections on Saturday. This is according to the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, who told journalists at a meeting with key players in the forthcoming elections in Abuja that affected polling units have no registered voters. The empty polling units are part of the 2,260 new polling units established by INEC.
No election will take place at the polling units without registered voters.
A bill to alter the constitution to review the required educational qualification into certain political offices has killed second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill, sponsored by Representative Oriyomi Ononuga, seeks to establish a minimum of university degree as requirement for some elective offices, including the office of the president. The lawmaker argues that certain professional jobs require high educational qualifications, and it's only right that political office holders should possess certain qualifications and not just secondary school certificate.
Thank you, Honorable Knowledge.
Religious leaders have been asked to shun all forms of discrimination in exercise of their duties and promote inclusiveness among members of their congregation. Bishop Matthew Kuka stated this at the celebration of World Fraternity Day in Abuja. a day set aside to recognize the valuable contribution of people of all religions to humanity and the contribution that dialogue among all religious groups can make towards an improved awareness and understanding of the common values shared by all mankind. According to Bishop Kuka, religious leaders should stop discouraging people from getting married because of their religious affiliations and focus on teaching acceptance and tolerance towards people of different religions.
We have to demolish all these if we are to build a society that is just and fair.
A bill for an act to establish Nigeria's Center for Vaccine Research and Development has killed second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill, which was sponsored by Representative Kasim Umaigari, seeks to ensure local production of vaccines. According to the lawmaker, local production of vaccines will save the country a lot of money.
I'd like you to get all what you need to know tonight. As far as political stories are concerned, one more stop, then we get to unveil our guest tonight. A federal high court sitting in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, has asked the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to stop further action against the former governor of Imo State, Senator Okorocha, until the determination of the case before it. Senator Okorocha had, through his lawyer, Mr. Olanipekun, a senior advocate of Nigeria, approached the Federal High Court, presided over by Justice Stephen Palm, to seek the enforcement of some orders earlier made in his favor in a case between him and the anti-graft agency. No doubt, the 2023 general elections, especially the presidential race, will go down in the nation's history as perhaps the most keenly contested and intense political competition. In the different major political parties, intense horse trading is presently going on. On Sunday, on this program, Professor Pat Utomi brushed aside the main parties, that is, the ruling APC and the nation's main opposition, PDP. He claims those two parties are more or less the same, and according to him, they have failed Nigerians. Everyone, let's begin the conversation, shall we? We're looking at the sort of leadership Nigeria deserves at this critical point. I'm being joined by a former Minister of Aviation in Nigeria under the Jonathan administration in 2017. Is Mr. Chidoka, who ran for the governorship election of Anambra State on the platform of the UDP. He later returned to the PDP party. He was part of its founding. Mr. Chidoka worked closely with Atiku Abubakar, who ran as the presidential candidate of the PDP in 2019 election and was one of the star witnesses of the legal contest put forward by the PDP. Mr. Osita Chidoka joins me from Washington, D.C. in the United States. Thank you so much, Mr. Chidoka, for joining us tonight. And let's begin the conversation. First and foremost, I'd like to get to know what is running through your mind when you hear Professor Patutomi, for example, say, look, PDP and APC are more or less the same. They're like Siamese twins, and they have not done the nation any good. And the Nigerian people should not consider these two political parties as any viable option in 2023. And is pushing forward an alternative for Nigerians. What's your reaction to that statement?
Thank you very much, Cheryl, and good day to the viewers. First, Professor Patutomi is somebody I respect. He's a good friend of mine, and I understand his frustrations with the political setup in Nigeria today. So I can appreciate where he's coming from. But what is lacking is that he hasn't been a little more rigorous to figure out the difference between the APC and the PDP. And I'll tell you briefly what the major difference is. This is APC's 7 years in office, and I would like to compare it also with PDP's 7 years in office, the first 7 years of PDP in office. And the first 7 years of PDP in office, PDP had instituted a save and spend mentality. So when the oil prices were almost below $30 when President Obasanjo took over, by the time oil prices came up to $60, our budget was still at $33. If you look at 2006 budget, it was benchmarked at $33, and that gave the bandwidth for us to be able to have the excess crude account. That excess crude account is what saved up the money to allow PDP government, the Nigeria, to exit the Paris debt club. That excess crude account created the buffer that in 2008, when the global economic financial crisis hit the world, PDP was able, the Nigerian government was able to weather the storm, drawing from the excess crude account. The APC in its 7 years in office have gone on to a borrow and spend philosophy. So from inheriting a debt of 7 billion, they've gone all the way to almost $30-something billion, which I'm hearing now is almost inching to about $50 billion of debt. Now, if you look at the current discussion in Argentina, where the IMF is forcing Argentina to change its economic focus, they're asking Argentina to reduce the budget deficit from 2.5% of the GDP to 0.9% over the next 2 years. Now, Nigeria's deficit to GDP is at about 4%. So there is a clear difference between the approach of PDP in its economic policy, in its philosophy, that you have to invest in human beings first before the massive investment in infrastructure, which started towards the 7, 8, 9, 10 years of PDP, when we started the power plants, the 9 power plants, when we started the plan for the railways. But before then, PDP had acquired 22 hospitals in Nigeria to create the federal medical centers. Nigerians who walk into the federal medical centers today don't recollect that this was a decision of Obasanjo government. And these federal medical centers were created in states that did not have teaching hospitals. If you go to the issue of education, the PDP government started the National Open University. Today, there are about 500,000 students in National Open University. That tells you the number of people that are escaping from poverty through quality education. The private universities were not a thing that Nigerians knew about in 1999. By the time PDP left office in 2015, there were 67 private universities in Nigeria. So if you look at the policy framework of the PDP, you will see that there is a deliberate effort, not just to empower the citizens, but also to create the framework for a savings culture and spending when you have the money. If you look at the issue of sale of government houses in Abuja, that was the biggest wealth transfer scheme that the world has ever witnessed, when the government sold its own assets to its own civil servants, empowering those civil servants and reducing from the government the maintenance costs that they have carried every year in maintaining public buildings. So if you look at that principle, you will see that PDP had gone towards a small government. PDP had gone to reducing the government by privatization, removing the government-owned public agencies, while the APC are doing the opposite. So if I were Professor Pat Utomi, what I should have been asking myself is, between the two ideas of PDP and APC, if you don't agree with it, you can go for a third force. But to say that they are the same or two sides of a coin is not correct.
So in essence, the big question here will be whether or not your political party, PDP, is a real alternative to the APC or an option that Nigerians can pick from in 2023. And if that is in the affirmative, the big question is the kind of, or the characters or the personalities your party is putting forward in 2023, are they convincing enough to be able to weather the conversation of equity, fairness, and justice in terms of political balancing in the nation?
Again, I will tell you that voting for PDP is a no-brainer for Nigerians if they want an equitable, fair, and just government. The logo of the PDP is the umbrella. And the idea of the umbrella is an umbrella that accommodates all. If you look at the PDP, we have suffered our own fair share of crises of being in government and being out of government. So we've learned. It's not an El Dorado with the PDP. We've had our own issues. We've made our mistakes, but we've learned from those mistakes. The key thing you must learn about PDP is that in 1999, when PDP came to power, we graded the ministries into grade A, B, and C, 666 per zone. So every zone had a minister in grade A, in grade B, and grade C. creating a sense of national unity. PDP is the party that came up with the Fiscal Responsibility Act to say to the subnational government, you cannot borrow money as you like. There are parameters for people to borrow money, which is still part of our save and spend philosophy, as distinct from the borrow and spend, which is APC. Now, voting for PDP will allow PDP to unwind the destruction that's happened to our management of national diversity. The APC government has been very poor at the management of national diversity. And the reason why they've been very poor at it is because they do not have the historical burden that PDP had. PDP had the historical burden of getting power out of the military and institutionalizing civilian rule in Nigeria. So we achieved that. PDP had the historical burden of removing Nigeria from a pariah nation, pre the Abacha government and just a few months of Abubakar government, and re-engaging us with the world. We achieved it extraordinarily. We re-engaged Nigeria with the world. We got Nigeria to see the world, we got the world to see Nigeria in a different format. So if you look at our historical burden, there is no way we could not manage Nigeria's diversity. As distinct from APC, who had to play up strong ethnic sentiments to win power at the time they were coming to power. So they are held prisoners by the configuration that brought them to power. So voting for PDP...
I like to put you in a very tight situation here, perhaps put you on the spot. You are an Igbo man, of course, you're a Nigerian, but of Igbo extraction. And I know that the conversation around whether or not the Igbos should have the presidency in 2023 has come up over and over again. And we're going into 2023. Your party, for example, has said it will throw that option open to every region of the country. As far as we know today, it has not made a decision on where to go in that respect. For your people in the Southeast region, how's your party done fairly to the region?
So, again, it is still the same politics that I'm telling you. I am a very strong advocate that PDP should zone its presidency to the Southeast. I am unequivocal in that position that in the fairness, in building that Nigeria, when the Igbos came to the Constitutional Conference of General Abacha in 1995, it was Ekweme and the Igbo group that proposed the idea of rotational presidency. And we said at that time that it should be a president with two vice presidents, the vice president from the region of the president and the one that from the other region. So in the event of the demise of the president, the one from his region will have taken over. That would have allowed us not to have the problem we had with President Yar'Adua's death. Now, the second aspect of the Constitutional Conference request was that the rotational presidency will be a 30-year program with one term of 5 years each. So in 30 years, the 6 zones in Nigeria would have experienced the presidency, and then we can throw it open to the best candidates from any zone. Now, what has happened is that there has been discussions because President Yar'Adua died and then the opposition won power. So PDP is in a kind of a dilemma. Do we struggle to win power first and continue our zoning as we have done? Or do we continue with the zoning, even if that candidate may or may not win the election? So using my approach is that, first of all, the Igbo people will have to bring up a candidate that can convince Nigerians, because Nigerians are not party to these internal party zoning structures. But if the two political parties in Nigeria had taken a strategic decision to allow the Southeast to produce the candidates, what will have happened is that Nigerians will have made the choice, like we did with Obasanjo and Falaye, which of these Nigerians are the ones that can, who amongst these two people is the type of Nigerian we want to lead us out of where we are today? By making the race.
So invariably, what is playing out is that it looks like your party, PDP, has lost hope in the Southeast or a Southeastern candidate to be able to win election for it. That is the dilemma. That is what it's looking like, isn't it? That an Igbo man may not be able to win for the PDP a 2023 presidential election. That's what it's looking like, isn't it?
It's a real and clear present dilemma that any political party will do, because if you look at political parties across the world, at every point in time, I'm not sure Biden was the choice of many Democrats. Sanders was winning the primaries until they intervened. to ensure that somebody that can defeat President Trump came on the ticket. So my attitude is that Nigeria has gotten to the stage where we have to create what I call that Nigerian center. That center where people from all ethnic groups who believe in Nigeria, who share the ideals of Nigeria, lose their ethnic identity and seen by the rest of Nigeria as Nigerians. So it is creating that middle that the country has a dilemma. Over the past 8 years, we haven't created it. If we had created that middle, there would be no question of whether an Igbo man can win an election. What will be the question is whether that Igbo man that PDP is bringing approximates to that Nigerian center. The Nigerian center is a center that will be against the fundamentalism of Boko Haram. It will be against the separationist agenda of the Southeast, of those who push separation. It will be against the people in the Southwest or the Niger Delta militants. That center is what Nigeria will be creating if the two political parties decide that an Igbo man will be presidential candidate of the two parties. It will dawn on every Nigerian that for you to be part of that Nigerian center, there are minimum behavior that is acceptable to being a Nigerian. Now, so I understand the dilemma of the PDP, and I share in that dilemma. But the question I'm asking is that for us to build a nation, we need to bend backwards to build that nation. And I'm hoping that the two political parties will bend backwards to see that you cannot define Nigeria in terms of there is no Igbo man who the nation can trust. That means that the country has not built a middle. That means that the Igbo people that are serving in the military, giving up their lives, are not paying the ultimate price, are not being recognized for the work they are doing. That means that the Igbo people that are in the public service, spending 35 years of their life contributing to national growth, are not recognized for what they do for the nation, both in the intelligence services, in the military and paramilitary forces. We have all taken risks for Nigeria. And Nigeria needs to understand that building that center will allow us to, in the future, be able to say, let the best man rule. I am all the one for let the best candidate win, whoever wants to do. But we need that transitional period where we heal our national wounds, where we build that national center, and where we get all Nigerians to help us build that nation where no man is oppressed, to help us build that nation where though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And I think that opportunity presents itself to Nigeria at this time.
So let me ask you, and I like you to be frank and straightforward with Nigerians tonight, because millions of people who are watching you tonight are gauging and wondering whether or not they should stick with the APC or choose your party, or maybe look for the third force or any of the political parties around ahead of 2023. A lot of people are talking about how they will galvanize the young people of Nigeria. So a few names have come up in your political party. The likes of the the governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal. The name of someone like the governor of River State, Nyesom Wike, has come up. The name of the likes of the former governor of Kano State, Kwonkwoso, his name has come up also. We'll look at Atiku Abubakar, the former candidate of your party in 2019, and Peter Obi's name also had come up. So the big question is, for you as a member of the party, a chieftain of the PDP, and looking at what happened to your party in 2019 and 2015, where the APC had given your party a bleeding, a bloody nose. Which of these candidates do you think at this critical time can give the APC a run for their money, or any other political party that may be in the contention in 2023?
So there's this dilemma we have in politics about personalizing an election. So let me take it in two ways. First and foremost, the reason why any Nigerian should vote for PDP is that the PDP has a diversified power structure. We don't have that single individual who can take decisions on behalf of the whole country, or who can direct the party to go one way or the other without the concurrence of the power blocks in PDP. So we have strong governors, we have strong presence in many states, we have members who are former ministers, former presidents, we have former Senate presidents. So PDP is a party that when the caucus of the party meets, no president can willfully take a decision one way or the other. So the diversified power structure of the PDP is the most attractive thing that Nigerians should be looking forward to. The fact that PDP states have continued to show that they can invest in the people, that they can make things out of nothing, that we can have a state-run airline running in Nigeria called Ibom Air, that we can build the type of infrastructure that we're seeing across the country in the states of the PDP, tells the country that we are ready to provide that leadership at national scale. Now, PDP is guided by his manifesto. PDP is guided by his caucuses. So there is no one individual who, if he becomes president, will totally alter the DNA of the PDP. That is why we look rancorous. That is why we look unorganized to people. That is why it looks like we're always at each other's throats, because the power focus of PDP is diversified. Now, coming to the candidates, all the candidates you've mentioned, any of them will do well as a presidential candidate of the PDP, because they come with experience of serving at the national level. They come with the experience of some of them serving at both national and state level. They come with name recognition. They come with the fact that they are no messiahs, that they are not coming to Nigerians promising to be the be-all and end-all of Nigeria's problem. Rather, we are not relying on their personal capabilities. We are relying on the institutional framework of the PDP, combined with their personal skills to deliver value to Nigerian people. So while the APC now is at loss because they do not have another charismatic politician like President Buhari, who is one of Nigeria's major charismatic politicians. He has a strong base. He has supporters that are across all the ethnic groups in Nigeria who still swear by him. So APC does not have any person again with that kind of stature, because don't forget, he was a former head of state. Don't forget that he has been in our national consciousness for a very long time. And now as president, many will argue he hasn't done as well as he promised, but he still has sizable followership. Nobody in APC has the Buhari effect. So what is key is that the election of 2023 is going to be an election of which party, which structure is able to deliver public goods to Nigeria. And I think PDP is the most qualified at this time to turn around the situation in Nigeria, reduce our budget deficit, stop this bleeding with our debts, work on the economy to ensure that people ultimately are the focus.
Mr. Chidoka, we're due for a break now, but I have one last question for you, and that I will reserve until when we come back from the break, and we wrap up our conversation with you. Well, let's take a break, everyone. And when we return, I'll wrap up with Mr. Chidoka. But Mr. Daniel Buwala will be joining me here in our Abuja studio, and the dilemma of the APC party ticket gets our attention. He's a lawyer and a chieftain of the APC. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll be right back. Our final moment with Mr. Osita Chidoka, a former aviation minister and a chieftain of the PDP. My final question to you, Mr. Chidoka, is this. 2015, APC defeated your party. 2019, they defeated your party. A lot of people have argued that not that you will find President Buhari staying on the sideline. He will be actively involved in the campaign. And the 10 to 12 million votes he's always carried with him might still come with him in 2023. He will still hold the hand of whoever becomes the presidential candidate of the APC. How will your party be able to stand against the APC in 2023? Just about 60 seconds so that we can wrap up.
Well, I want to rely on data to answer you. In 2015, 2016, according to the NOI polls, Buhari was polling almost 90% across all northern states in terms of performance of the job. By 2019, he was polling at about 60%. He had gone down in some states to as low as 50-something, 40% in the north. And that was reflected in the election results. In Kano, his votes came down by almost 20%. The quantity of votes he got in 2015 compared to 2019 across the north declined. So imagine what is happening when he is not the one on the ballot. The problem in Nigeria is that our civil society have not focused on tracking data and information. If they've been tracking it, you will see that if there is a lowest ebb of the Buhari government, it will have been in the past 2 years. Nigerians are at their wits' end. So when I say he has supporters, what I mean by that is that, of the 12 million, I am certain that about 30, 40 or 50% of those will still remain loyal to him as a person. But I'm not sure whether they will transfer it to continue this type of governance they have witnessed with insecurity all over the country, with the economic challenges facing us. So relying on that data, I can tell you that PDP as a brand, as the party that made Nigerians hopeful, as the party that put food on the table of Nigerians, as the party that said farewell to poverty, as the party that brought out the institutions that underpin our societies today, will be in play in 2023. And we are the party to beat in 2023.
All right, we need to leave it at that, Mr. Chidoka. Former aviation minister and the chieftain of the PDP, Mr. Osita Chidoka, who has been speaking with us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
The ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, has not seen as much pressure, perhaps, as it's experiencing at the moment. A party now that is working on a tightrope of getting its leadership structure together, and the dilemma of deciding who becomes the flag bearer ahead of 2023. The governor of Kogi State and one of the presidential hopefuls in the 2023 race has sounded a note of warning to the party on the state of affairs of things and is wanting everyone to come together. Let me allow you to take a listen to the governor of Kogi State.
APC is a party of various tendencies. Various political parties came together to form the All Progressives Congress. Out of all of it, I belong to none of them. So my first political party is All Progressives Congress. All Progressives Congress is the only political party I know. And that is the platform that gave me the opportunity to be a governor today. It has been built up to the level we are today, and remaining only one more lap to go. And that lap is the National Convention. It is the most important of it all. If we get it right, then we'll have a solid party. If it is mismanaged and we did not see the booby traps ahead of us, God forbid, may He not spare the doom for us. First important task, I want each and every one of us to pray, and pray very hard, sincerely, that the party remains solidly together.
The governor of Kogi State, Yaya Bello, sounding a note of warning to the party. Let's get some perspectives to this matter. I'm being joined by a lawyer and a member of the Lincolns in London, who is currently serving as a special advisor to the Deputy Senate President. Mr. Daniel Bwala is a vocal member of the APC who has voiced his opinions on issues of the law, public policy, and advocacy. He joins us right here in Abuja Studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Bwala, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, before I allow you to respond to what Professor Patutomi said, because I gave the opportunity to Mr. Osita Chidoka to respond to same, and also respond to what Mr. Chidoka said, as relating to your party's chances in 2023. First and foremost, is what the governor of Kogi State said about his fears and the warning that he's given that if your party is not careful, the worst might happen.
Yeah, I think his warning is apt. And if you remember, even the president at one time sounded the same warning to the party to be united. And usually when a party is completing the cycle of one president and going to a transition, usually there will be one or two tendencies. So it is natural to exercise that caution. Going forward, look at those things that divide us and try to minimize them and emphasize on those things that unite us so that we can come together as a common front to go to the next chapter of the party. If you want me to respond to Professor Chidoka's...
Just before we go there, is whether or not your party is in good stead right now. It's just about 2 weeks before your convention.
Right.
A lot of divisions and people are angry. Good to hear and see that some youth who went to court are willing to withdraw the case in court. But there are several states that are still not happy with the division that they're having in the leadership of the party in the states.
Yeah, it's natural. And I think I recall there was a time you asked me the same question when I was here, And my response was that there is always a battle between an incumbent and his predecessor, because the predecessor would have left a structure, the incumbent will inherit the structure, and anytime you have a Congress coming, there will be a tussle and a fight over who controls the structure in the state. It is not magical. If you go to PDP, it's the same. It is how you manage it. And if you ask for my opinion regarding the management of the crisis, I would say so far the Reconciliation Committee are doing their best. The question is, are we likely to go into the convention with the problem? The answer will be, if we take care and we do what we are supposed to do, we're likely to find a consensus. What it takes for a man to make up his mind or to change his mind from a position he's holding, one is if you appeal to his senses. Two, if you reason with his basis for crying. And three, if you find a common ground to work. This thing can happen in 2 hours. It can happen in 1 day. It may even last forever if it is not properly handled.
So the question is that with your experience in politics and what you've seen on the ground generally in your party, 2 weeks before the convention, your party is not looking at sitting people down because there's different. In fact, the national chairmanship seat of the party, you've not decided whether it's northeast or north central, that it will be zoned up until now. I mean, for those who say your party is disorganized or it doesn't even know the way to go, are they right in some sense?
And they are not right. Why? Because in politics, 24 hours is like 3 years. In fact, 24 hours is like 10 years. A decision can change. You and I are talking today. In politics, we can reach a conclusion today, by tomorrow morning it has changed. So if a situation looks bad today in politics, by the next morning, it can change. Talking about 2 weeks to convention, crisis here and there, national chairmanship problem, it is not a big deal. It is finding consensus. If you remember, even PDP, they have had series of meetings in which they agreed on some specific posts to reach a consensus, and then the remaining posts will be thrown out for contest. Now, the national body of the party and the stakeholders of the party are having a conversation. The good thing is, all of the individuals who are putting themselves forth for the position of national chairmanship appear to have the characteristic and the qualities of the party. Now, the stakeholders and leaders of the party will make a good sense of judgment in their conversation for a consensus. And so I believe, and I'm optimistic, that the convention is going to be smooth. The convention is going to be successful.
If you have a contest, if you have a contest,
if there is a contest,
with the present division, because the question will be one single person that could make a consensus idea work in the APC that could bring people together and that could easily be listened to is President Muhammadu Buhari, the political leader of your party.
And you think
but with his style in the past, do you think that President Buhari will intervene in the scheme of things as relating to whether or not people should have a consensus before the convention?
I think it is even the intervention of the president that advised that it is better for the party to have a consensus going forward. He's already intervening. Otherwise, he would have just sit back. Yes,
I can't remember that.
And he doesn't have to call you Shehun. I say Shehun. I've just told
it's not made public. I mean,
no, it has been.
I've followed events across all political parties.
I
can't remember.
I can send you the link where it was reported that the president's preference is that a consensus be reached heading to the convention.
As a matter of body language of those who are around him.
No, it was reported. I mean, it was.
So now I'm saying, because his style has not been the one to intervene, to get into the arena in your party affairs.
I agree with you, but I will cast your mind back to your own interview with the president in the villa when you raised issue of the 2023 and all that. You even wanted to put answers to him when you asked if he has a preferential candidate. And he told you he has someone dear to his heart, but he will not say because the person might be eliminated. That means he's, one, interested about the well-being of the party. Two, he's thinking about the well-being of the party. And three, it might even be strategic that he's quiet now until the 11th hour. Because in politics, if you let out your card too early, you're likely to lose that. Remember, he's a retired military general too. The element of surprise in their modus operandi is their strongest strength.
Let me allow you to listen quickly to Professor Patutomi. Professor Patutomi, I allow you to listen to soundbite, part of what he said here on this program on Sunday.
What is happening here is an amalgamation of the willing and the dispossessed. According to the willing and dispossessed, Nigerians who are passionate to rebuild Nigeria because they know what it should be, and Nigerians who have been schemed out by the political class of now. These are youth who have been called lazy. These are women who have been so ignored that we are an embarrassment compared to Rwanda and small African countries in terms of participation of women in politics.
You know, Professor Patu told me there.
Right.
He did say on this program that your party and the PDP are no options for Nigerians in 2023.
Intriguing enough, with the greatest respect to Professor Patu Tomi, whom I consider like a senior brother, and we're always in touch. He was a member of APC.
Oh, he is a member of the APC.
Oh, he is
I'm
still,
not sure he has left the APC.
And I think I have listened to one interview in which he was asked if he's a member of APC, in which I think he denied. But there is no thought force anywhere. Every man's ignorance is his thought force. I will give you a graphic example. If you look at 60 to 70% of the people who are pushing for the thought force, they are members of either of these two major political parties who tried to push and felt disenfranchised. Such personalities don't build a thought force. If there is any thought force, as it were, it should be Young Progressive Party. But even the Young Progressive Party, remember in the 2019 election, they gave their platform to one of the proponents of a thought force. What did he do? After he ran and lost the election, rather than staying patiently to build that political party, he dissed them and said he has left politics, he's focusing on governance, and a year and a half later, he came back again. He said he's joining other political parties to run. So some of these people who talk about thought force, they don't have the patience to stay and build a political party. Where you shoot, you lose, you come and shoot again. And I don't think the future of Nigeria is going to be around these personalities. If you want to really, really build a thought force, you look at the Young Progressive Party that has shown consistency in the way they operate. But because of structure and the dynamics of politics, it is impracticable for a thought force to rise now and defeat either of these two political parties in the 2023 election.
All right. Let me take you, because similar question that I asked Mr. Chidoka is the kind of people that have been, whose names have been thrown up in the last few weeks.
Right.
For example, in your political party, Yaya Bello, Rotimi Amechi, Rochas Okorocha, Yemi Osinbajo, the vice president, Bola Tinubu.
Yemi Osinbajo is not running.
What do you mean?
He's not running because...
He's not running for president.
He's not running. He's not interested. Why?
Are you saying that authoritatively?
Because I follow news and events, and in all of the occasions in which he's called out, as a matter, then let's not even go far. Yesterday or so, I think it was reported in a newspaper 2 days ago that he said he was going to announce his presidency after convention. What happened? Laole Akande, his essay, issued a very strongly worded statement that he is not talking about presidency. And anybody who is reading in any other media should discard it. If you want information, it must emanate from them. But I think I know the wisdom why Vice President VP Osinbajo is not running, and he is shooting down every attempt to point towards that. I think it's because of three elements. Number one, he may have understood that the general principle of equity and governance is that one good turns deserve another. He had a principal that supported him for 8 years. I mean, the principal could have changed him in 2019. He supported him all three. And because Asiwaju had indicated interest, morally, not legally, it will be injurious for the vice president to express interest. That is why he is not. Secondly, the part of the country where he comes from, these are cultural issues. They are deeply rooted in the way they operate. That if somebody has helped you and now has indicated interest, your best bet is to even go about supporting him in the hope that if he doesn't get it, he will now throw his weight behind you. But you will not challenge him. And I think that since the vice president is not interested, it is important that he comes out and downplay his supporters and support Asiwaju. Why? Because if you continue to leave people in limbo, there is going to be a crisis between your supporters and his supporters. So much so that if tomorrow the chances are not clear for him, he will not be in a position he will push forward.
So, I mean, some of the names have been put on the screen right there. Governor Dave Umahi, in fact, the governor of Cross River State, also his name has been thrown. And some of these, and I asked Mr. Oshitsi Chidoka whether or not his party and the kind of names that we have seen are a match for your party. The question now is, are these names and these are they a match for the PDP and the kind of people that We've seen the name thrown up.
The biggest magic that PDP can spring and give APC a run for the money is if you pair Atiku and Governor Wike. Then you are now going to engage in a really basketball finals. But any team other than these two, I mean, they can't go anywhere. They will probably be struggling alongside Young Progressive Party and ABGA. But in terms of the personalities in APC, and now all of them have a right to run. Constitutionally, they are empowered. Everybody is qualified. But we have now gone beyond just constitutional qualification to look at certain qualifications that are within the prism of politics. Number one, your capacity and your reach. Number two, your political structure. Number three, your capacity to galvanize the people. Number four, whether your voice is being heard. Now, I look at every geopolitical zone. When I look at it from my own point of view, I look at one individual. So, for example, if you look at the Southeast, the person you can look at, if you ask me, is Dr. Chris Ngige. It's not even some of these individuals you're mentioning. For example, Dave Umahi just came in yesterday. It will be difficult for him to command this patronage of others.
As of course, Chris Ngige, the Minister of Labour, said he is going to run.
I think he will. I think he will. If you look at North Central, you look at Governor Yabelo. In his own case, it is even working to his advantage in the sense that nobody else in the North Central is also asking for it. So he stands tall and he stands alone. So it's more likely going to convince others. If you come to the Northeast, Northeast is poised for vice presidential. That's why nobody is putting himself forward. If you go to South-South, you look at Rotimi Amechi. Rotimi Amechi is Paul ahead of others. So if you look at in every zone, and Northwest, it is not fair and equitable to even bring them into the foray because they are just completing their ADS time. It will not be legally right. So in essence, the 6 geopolitical zones, you take out Northwest, take out Northeast, the remaining 4, 1-1-1, these are the major contenders. So for Southwest, for example, it will have to be Asiwaju.
All right, because I was going to say, well, I allowed you to give the reason why you think Professor Oshibajo will not run. But it is, you don't have the authority to speak in that respect.
I gave you opinion.
No, it's your opinion. But
right.
The question is that doesn't take him out of the equation. He has not come out to say he's not running. Yes. And in fact, his supporters are already saying he's running.
They may well start insulting me after today, but what I'm saying is, I respect him. And remember,
don't let us discard his chances. That's the point I'm making.
Right.
Because he has not said authoritatively or outrightly that he's not running. Because he has not said it, right. Doesn't mean that he's not running.
But it will be intriguing for him to rise and say he's interested when Asiwaju has already said that.
But that's not. It doesn't take away his chances.
No. Chances is a very big word.
But the question is that the likes of Governor of Ekiti State, his very good friend also, his name has been thrown up.
Yes.
So and they are from the Southwest, and he's also one of the allies of Bola Tinubu.
But can I tell you something?
Yeah.
The 2023, I'm just trying to summarize for you. And like a prophet, the 2023 contest, each of the candidates that will win will either be a former governor or a sitting governor, both in APC and in PDP. And I am thinking...
That's what you think?
It might even be either former and non-former in both. That's so you are going to find 4 candidates as either former or incumbent governors. I predict that.
So I asked Mr. Chidoka about the options left for Nigerians, because Nigerians will pick, Nigerians will decide.
Right.
The youth of this country are also, that people are talking to their ears that they should need to rise up and wake up ahead of 2023. And the question that Professor Patitobi asked on Sunday was whether our lives are better today than 7 years ago before your party took over the affairs of this country. The question is whether or not the voters will reject your party or accept it in 2023.
You see, the voters will make the best decision around that time at dawn now. It is difficult. You even have not heard of the latest. They are even saying that Governor Emefiele is being pushed for a presidential as a neutral. You see, conversation will continue. The decision that will be made by Nigerians will be based upon, because like I told you, in politics 1 day is like 10 years. There is somebody that may be a frontliner now. By 6 months, his image would have been grossly damaged, that he is not going to be a marketable person. So around the time of election is when Nigerians will be able to make up their mind. But if you are making a comparison between APC and PDP, I just want us to go and meet madmen in the street, because logical people have made the conclusion. Economists have made the conclusion already. When he was talking about save and invest, as if we were not in Nigeria when they had all the money they wasted. As if we are not in Nigeria when they destroy institutions of government. If you go to fuel station now, if you want to jump the queue, do you know the common cliche? I want PDP. Why do you think the name is being mentioned? PDP can never come as a marketable or veritable tool, but I have gone beyond the name of a political party in my understanding of politics. Right. I think personalities will matter.
Mr. Daniel Bwala, member of the maybe you are going
to send me to PDP.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bwala, for coming on tonight. That was our show today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I'm sure Kimale. Bye for now.